All right, good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Ricky Matthews here with a quick update on Tropical Storm Florence, what will likely soon become Hurricane Florence and then Major Hurricane Florence. This is a serious storm, one that needs to be watched carefully in the coming days as it continues to strengthen and then move towards the southeast coastline. As I record this video around 8 o'clock here on Saturday evening, you notice here's the structure of Florence right now. Big burst of thunderstorm activity near the center. It's been fighting some dry air, fighting some wind shear over the past couple of days. That caused it to weaken to a tropical storm. But you notice right here, kind of some thunderstorms forming on the outside of the storm. Those feeder bands that we talk about ahead of a hurricane approaching, they're starting to develop. A nice area of thunderstorms here around the core starting to develop. So this thing is getting its act together. Here's the deal. It's still a long way away. 1,500 miles away from the United States. So we have plenty of time to watch it, to get prepared, and to analyze it as it continues to track off towards the west. It is expected to move west and then take a slight turn to the northwest. Very good agreement in the next 2 to 3 days on the track of the storm. Once we get past 2 to 3 days, that's when the thing starts to get a little uncertain. We start to see more diversity here in the models, from some keeping it offshore, some taking it really close to North Carolina and inland into North Carolina, some taking it into South Carolina. So it's kind of like when you ask your friends, where do you want to go for dinner? And each of them gives you a different answer. That's kind of what the models are doing in the long term here. The reason they're so uncertain is because we have a big area of high pressure north of us. That is what's been causing us to be so warm across Virginia, North Carolina recently, and it's also expected to stay here. This is a very anomalous setup, a very strong area of high pressure that we typically don't see in this area. That's why we're going to have this risk of the hurricane approaching and then potentially making landfall in Virginia or North Carolina. The question is, where does it go from there? Right now, Florence is a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm, expected to strengthen, though, to 145 to 140 miles per hour by late Wednesday into Thursday afternoon, approaching the North Carolina and South Carolina coast. The question from there is, does it go inland into North Carolina? Does it take a more northern jog here across parts of southeastern North Carolina into parts of eastern North Carolina and then Virginia? Does it continue further west into South Carolina? That's what this cone of uncertainty is for. The system could be anywhere in that cone at day 5 in Thursday of next week. So there's still a lot of question marks here, but the bottom line is that you need to get ready for the potential of a significant hurricane impact along the East Coast. We're still at that ready stage. We get to set and go, we're going to get a little more concerned. But right now, there's still plenty of time to prepare, plenty of time to check where you live, make sure you've got everything you need, and also photograph your home. Walk around your house, take pictures with your cell phone, upload those pictures to places like Google Drive, Dropbox. It'll be very helpful in the future if you have to make any insurance claims, things like that, if you have those pictures around. Make sure you've got enough food, water on hand. Make sure you know where your cell phone charger is, both for your car and for your house. And consider buying one of those battery packs for your phones. Those are really helpful, and a lot of them can make your phone last 2 to 3 days and make a couple of charges in that 2 to 3 day period. Now, in Hampton Roads, what you need to know is what zone you live in. We used to use category 1, 2 through 4 surge zones. We changed that now. Now it's zones A, B, C, and D, and they're color-coded here. Blue in zone A, this green color is zone B, zone C is in yellow, and zone D is this red color. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here to Hampton. And you notice basically all of eastern Hampton, including Grandview, Little Back River, areas towards Willow Oaks, areas of Buck Road down to Fort Monroe, and areas very close and along Langley Air Force Base and all of Pocosin is a Zone A evacuation zone. Why? Because those areas typically flood first in the event of a hurricane storm surge. Zone B, along the Hampton River, also into portions of Willow Oaks, over towards Kickotan High School, those are zones B. They can flood in a hurricane, but it typically takes a stronger hurricane, a little more direct storm. This one is still way too far out to kind of nail down the specifics on the surge right now. It's all going to depend on that eventual track. But know your zone, know where you live, so in the coming days, if you hear about zone evacuations, you know which one you live in. You can go Google Virginia hurricane evacuation zones. That map will come up, and you can click right on there. It'll find your house, and you know exactly what zone you live in if you do not know just off of that map. The other impact that I'm concerned about with Florence is the potential for very heavy rainfall. With that high pressure over us, the system may come onshore, if it does, and then stall. All right? Remember the system that impacted Texas last year and kind of stalled and rained a lot? This one could do that. We could see 10 to 20 inches of rain across parts of Virginia into North Carolina, perhaps even locally higher amounts. That amount of rain can cause significant flooding of urban areas, and it can also cause significant flooding of our rivers. When Floyd came through back in '99, we had 20 inches of rain. That caused some serious flooding across parts of Franklin, Virginia, along the Black River there and areas inland. So that's a concern, certainly, as we go into late next week as Florence may be approaching. So here's the bottom line. Likely to strengthen into a Category 4, maybe even a Category 5 hurricane in the next couple of days. Rapid intensification is likely for Florence. Main threats: flooding, heavy rain, surge, wind. All these, of course, higher along the direct path of the storm. The local impact at your house will be determined off of that eventual track. And we're not there yet in trying to nail down the eventual track exactly. Once we get into late Sunday, early Monday, I think we'll have a much better handle on where Florence will go, and that will determine the eventual impacts for Hampton Roads, all of eastern North Carolina, and of course South Carolina as well, if they end up in the eventual path of this storm. So stay tuned, stay up to date, and as always, don't be scared, just be prepared. We'll keep you updated as we get a little bit closer.